While most Americans worry about oil dependency, a far more critical crisis is quietly unfolding beneath our feet. China controls 80% of the world's lithium-ion battery production and 70% of all lithium processing. The metal that powers every electric vehicle, smartphone, and renewable energy storage system is almost entirely in Beijing's hands. This isn't just about economics anymore. It's about national security, technological sovereignty, and America's ability to control its own energy future. The numbers reveal the depth of this strategic vulnerability. The United States imports 70% of its lithium-ion batteries directly from China, worth $16 billion in 2024 alone. Meanwhile, American lithium production remains virtually non-existent, contributing less than 1% to global supply despite holding 14 million tons of lithium reserves, the third largest in the world. This disparity between potential and reality has created what defense experts now call a critical mineral chokehold that threatens everything from military equipment to the electric vehicle transition. Behind this dependency lies a calculated Chinese strategy spanning 2 decades. Through state-backed banks, Chinese companies have invested $57 billion in mining and processing projects across Africa, Latin America, and beyond. The Belt and Road Initiative didn't just build roads, it secured control over lithium deposits from Argentina to Zimbabwe. Today, Chinese firms are projected to overtake Australia as the world's top lithium miner by 2026, despite China holding less than 7% of global reserves. This vertical integration from mine to battery gives Beijing unprecedented leverage over the entire clean energy supply chain. The implications extend far beyond market competition. Lithium-ion batteries power critical military systems, including drones, night vision goggles, electronic warfare systems, and the flight control systems of F-35 fighter jets. The Defense Department has classified batteries as the bullets of future wars, yet America depends almost entirely on a strategic competitor for this essential technology. Recent intelligence reports reveal that over 97% of anode-active materials, crucial battery components, come from Chinese suppliers, creating vulnerabilities that could cripple American defense capabilities during any potential conflict. This strategic dependence is already manifesting in real-world consequences. China's recent export controls on graphite, rare earth elements, and other battery materials have sent shockwaves through American supply chains. When Beijing restricted gallium and germanium exports in December 2024, semiconductor prices spiked by double digits. A similar disruption to lithium supplies could increase battery costs by 45% globally, making electric vehicles prohibitively expensive and derailing America's clean energy transition. The ripple effects would cascade through the economy, affecting everything from consumer electronics to grid-scale energy storage. The Biden administration recognized this threat and committed unprecedented resources to domestic lithium production. The Department of Energy announced a record $2.26 billion loan to develop Thacker Pass in Nevada, the largest known lithium deposit in North America. This single project could produce enough lithium for 800,000 electric vehicles annually, representing 8 times America's current total lithium output. Additional projects in California's Salton Sea and Arkansas's Smackover Formation promise to add thousands more tons of domestic production capacity by 2027. However, these efforts face significant challenges that highlight the complexity of breaking China's mineral monopoly. Thacker Pass requires 46 years to reach full production and faces ongoing legal battles over water rights and environmental concerns. The project needs 2,400 acre-feet of water annually in an increasingly arid region, creating conflicts with local ranchers and Native American tribes. Even if successful, domestic mining only addresses part of the problem. America still lacks the refining and processing capabilities needed to convert raw lithium into battery-grade materials. The refining bottleneck represents perhaps the most serious obstacle to American lithium independence. Building new refineries requires 2 to 4 years and hundreds of millions in capital investment. Chinese companies possess decades of experience and established supply chains that will be difficult to replicate quickly. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has identified refining, not mining, as the primary constraint on lithium-ion battery production. Currently, over 50% of global lithium refining capacity is concentrated in China, making even domestically mined lithium dependent on Chinese processing facilities.
Chinese producers have maintained production even during unprofitable periods, supported by government subsidies and strategic objectives that extend beyond pure profit maximization. This approach has kept lithium prices artificially low, making it difficult for American companies to justify the massive investments required for domestic production. Lithium carbonate prices have fallen over 80% since their 2023 peak, creating financial pressure that has forced many Western mining projects to delay or cancel expansion plans. The electric vehicle market adds another layer of urgency to America's lithium challenge. Global EV sales reached 9.1 million units in the first half of 2025, growing 28% year over year. Chinese manufacturers accounted for over 60% of this growth, leveraging their control of the lithium supply chain to offer EVs at prices American companies cannot match. BYD and other Chinese automakers are expanding aggressively into global markets, using their integrated supply chains as a competitive weapon against American manufacturers like Tesla, Ford, and General Motors. American EV adoption, meanwhile, shows concerning signs of deceleration. While global EV sales surge, North American growth slowed to just 3% in the first half of 2025. The looming expiration of federal EV tax credits in September 2025 has created market uncertainty, with analysts predicting a collapse in fourth-quarter sales once subsidies end. This slowdown could reduce incentives for domestic lithium development, creating a vicious cycle where reduced EV demand leads to lower lithium investment, further cementing Chinese dominance. The geopolitical implications of lithium dependence extend beyond bilateral U.S.-China relations. America's allies in Europe and Asia face similar vulnerabilities, creating opportunities for coordinated responses, but also risks of supply disruptions that could affect multiple democracies simultaneously. NATO defense planning now includes scenarios where China could weaponize lithium supplies during international crises, forcing Western militaries to ration battery-powered equipment or seek alternative suppliers with limited capacity. Recent trade tensions have already provided a preview of how lithium could become a geopolitical weapon. President Trump's 145% tariffs on Chinese goods triggered retaliatory measures, including export controls on critical minerals.
China's suspension of rare earth exports to the United States demonstrates Beijing's willingness to use mineral dependencies as leverage. In broader strategic competition, lithium represents an even more powerful tool given its central role in both civilian technology and military systems. The technological dimension of America's lithium challenge reveals additional vulnerabilities. Chinese companies don't just control supply, they're rapidly advancing battery technology through massive research investments and integrated supply chains that enable rapid innovation cycles. CATL and BYD have achieved breakthroughs in lithium iron phosphate batteries that offer lower costs and improved safety compared to traditional designs. American companies, cut off from these integrated ecosystems, struggled to compete on both cost and innovation, falling further behind in next-generation battery development. Breaking China's lithium stranglehold requires a comprehensive strategy addressing multiple vulnerabilities simultaneously. The Foundation for Defense of Democracies recommends expanding domestic mineral extraction, streamlining permitting processes, and creating special economic zones around known lithium deposits. However, these measures alone won't overcome China's two-decade head start and massive scale advantages. Success requires sustained political commitment spanning multiple administrations, something America has struggled to achieve in other strategic industries. International cooperation offers another pathway to reducing Chinese dependence. Australia, Canada, and Chile possess significant lithium resources and democratic governance structures that align with American interests. Coordinated investment in processing facilities across allied nations could create alternative supply chains less vulnerable to Chinese manipulation. The proposed Critical Minerals Security Partnership represents an early step towards such cooperation, but much more substantial commitments will be needed to create meaningful alternatives to Chinese suppliers. The recycling dimension of lithium security remains largely underdeveloped, despite enormous potential. Current lithium battery recycling rates remain below 5%, representing massive waste of critical materials. Advanced recycling technologies could recover over 90% of lithium from spent batteries, potentially providing 154,000 tons of secondary supply by 2040.
However, achieving these rates requires coordinated policy support and industry investment in collection and processing infrastructure that currently doesn't exist at scale. As America grapples with these challenges, the window for action continues to narrow. Industry projections show lithium demand reaching 3.06 million tons by 2030, with electric vehicle batteries accounting for over 90% of consumption. Meeting this demand requires new mining capacity equivalent to multiple Thacker Pass projects coming online every year through the end of the decade. The lead times for major mining projects, typically 7 to 10 years from exploration to production, mean that projects not already in development may not contribute to supply until the mid-2030s. The stakes of this lithium competition extend far beyond mineral markets. Control over lithium means control over the pace and direction of the global energy transition. Countries with secure lithium supplies can accelerate electric vehicle adoption, deploy renewable energy storage at scale, and capture the economic benefits of clean technology manufacturing. Nations dependent on others for lithium face constraints on their decarbonization efforts and reduced competitiveness in emerging clean technology industries. America's lithium awakening comes at a critical moment in global energy transformation. The next 5 years will largely determine whether the United States can establish meaningful independence from Chinese lithium supplies or remains vulnerable to supply disruptions that could affect everything from national defense to civilian transportation. The investments being made today in domestic mining, processing capabilities, and alternative supply chains will shape America's energy security for decades to come. The question isn't whether lithium will define the next energy crisis. It's whether America will control its own lithium destiny or remain dependent on a strategic competitor for the foundation of its energy future.